truth is one. And that we can agree. Everybody, we know truth is one. But how we express our truth, how we see the truth, it's an individual expression. Out of 70 odd children in 6 months, I have over 30 ethnic cultures. Some of them are half this and half that, like my own child, but ethnic cultures, because they bring with them all these wonderful different cultural roots and their way of doing things at home, the way they behave, the way they speak, the way they dress. So it's a melting pot. Rooftop is a place where an Ethiopian, a Syrian, Estonian, a Romanian meets a Dane and a Pakistani and an Indian. Melting pot. It's a metaphor used for melting things together, elements together, different elements together. So that's why I use this, because it feels like a melting pot of different nationalities, cultures, language, color, simply. When I came up with the name Rooftop, I had a branding slogan called Growing with a View, because you know, when you're on the rooftop as a child, you look up and you see the sky and you see all these, that looks like, you know, the cloud spotting anybody has done as a child? That looks like an elephant. No, that looks like a dragon. It's a view. But I thought it's a melting pot. I as the leader, I as the owner, I as the staff, and I as the part of the children group, and I'm growing with a view every single day. My view changes every single day. So it's really growing with a view. And if my view can change, I'm sure everyone, my staff, my parents, they also grow together. So it's a very beautiful melting pot with a very unique culture of its own, growing with a view. Is it challenging to work in such a cultural difference and developing such a culture called growing with a view? Yes, most certainly yes. Do I have failures? No. That's because it's only 200 days. I do expect fair share of my failures. But is it worth it? Yes. It's worth every single moment. It's worth every single kroner of the 6 million I have loaned. It is worth it. Having said that, I must hurry up and say that this was not the purpose of Rooftop. I did not start with this beautiful purpose that Contribute has. I didn't even think about it until Jamila pointed it out. To me, I don't see a child as a Syrian or a Pakistani or a Chinese. I see a child. I can't see anything beyond. I see the child's mother. I see the child's father. I don't see a child's mother as from a religion or a culture or a color. But then at the bottom of all this, we all have the same purpose why we are here. This intercultural integration or Medborgerskab is a byproduct of what my purpose with Rooftop is. And the purpose is very simple. And it's also on my website, and that's how I started, and that's why I am here. I want to create a society where there's sanity. It's very simple for me, a sane world. And I start right there because that's where I sow the seed. I can sow the seed. All the pedagogues in the world, all the teachers in the world can sow that little seed. And if we nurture that seed, it's going to be the tree that you all want to see and you all talk about. It's very difficult to change a politician to see differently, because what is at the base of every human being? We all want to be better. We all want to expand our horizons as human beings and as beings. So what I'm going to share today is my story, because my story is very simple, and anyone here or any business leader can apply to contribute to the society to create a harmonious, not a homogeneous society, because we don't want homogeneity. Homogeneity you want in the sheeps. That's fine. We are human beings. We are born with amazing abilities. We ought to be us, but harmonious, so we can live with other humans, but also animals and insects. Very, very important, because they say, a very, very wise man I heard the other day saying that if the insects die, so the bee dies, then we have very, very short period for this planet for us to live. But if the human race perishes, the whole planet will survive beautifully. So my potential success of Rooftop lies in the way I view the children. And I'm now using me, because what I do as an example will pass on to my staff, and they will then do the same with the children and the parents. It will all have this cascading effect, hopefully. And what is my view? My view is shaped by my background. That's what we all are. We are all shaped by what we learn. And I learned My hair is grey, you can see, so I'm pretty old. So I come from a Hindu dharmic culture. Now, Hindu should not be mistaken as a religion. It's a culture where we believe, at least what I have been raised with in my family, it's called Vasudeva Kutumbakam. It's a Sanskrit word. Vasud means earth. Eva, it means indeed is. Kutumbakam is family. So earth is indeed a family, one single entity. We all come from one, we all are part of one, and everybody is part of everybody. I come from a country with 1.3 billion people. That's a lot of bodies. Every single major and minor religion and its sects and branches are all represented, all are recognized officially by the government. So in India, all religions can exist and coexist. 22 languages official, 122 major languages, and 1599 existing living languages. This is the diversity I come from. So my view comes from there. We don't have one single book. We have extreme lot of books if I want to learn all about my dharmic, which I don't think I ever will end in this lifetime. It will take a few lifetimes for me to read every single bit of those books. But 6,000 years, they say, is the recorded history of this culture. So what has happened there? In my opinion or experience, it is the plurality. It is the fact that we accept. It is not, we've never tried to integrate. I think it's also impossible to integrate 1.3 billion, 5 million, I think it's a piece of cake. But believe me, 1.3 billion, they can't even figure out driving on the roads safely and following the traffic rules. So getting them to follow one thing, integrate, no. But there's an underlying knowledge to all this, which is called Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. It means very, very simple. Truth is one. And that we can agree. Everybody, we know truth is one. But how we express our truth, how we see the truth, it's an individual expression. And that needs to be respected. Now I go back to some example from my profession. If you see a child, it cries, okay? We all feel the truth is children need to be loved. We all agree on that. We all have children. We love children. Children are the best thing. You have to love them. But we have different ways of loving. Some mother would say, this child has to learn to put the dishes in the machine and help. And another would say, I love my child. I feed my child till the child is 5 years old. Another mother would say, oh, I will buy the best of the toys and the best of the clothes. We all love, but we can disagree with each other and say, that's not the right way to raise a child. That's not the way to love a child. It's our expression. It's my child, my expression. Yeah, there can be ways of looking at it at the same time, but there is nothing wrong or right. As a group, maybe we need to figure out how to navigate these differences as a group. Of course, it's a challenge for us as an institution when we come with so many different cultures. How do I navigate all this? Because nothing is wrong. No mother or father is wrong. No child is wrong. And that's a challenge we work with. As you work with intercultural, for me, that's intercultural. Each family, and it doesn't have to be religion or race or color or nationality. Each family has its own way of eating. That's a culture. How do I navigate with all these cultures together in an institution? So, what do? I said pluralism. I said I don't see all these cultures. I see just go directly into the person. If all of us can see the person inside and don't have to see what you're wearing, what your color is, where you come from. So what we do in Rooftop is to create an environment where a child can think. This is where it can start. As I said, sowing a seed. I can think for myself what is right for me, what's wrong for me. I can actually think to reflect over what could be right for the other person. We teach them to communicate what they feel. Sometimes it can come across very rude for the receiving person, but yet I'm able to communicate and respect the response that comes from that communication. You know, some children say, I don't want to play with you. Tu aisa snorkel, ye little I mera. And I had a staff once, she said, you should not speak like that. That's very bad behavior. This child doesn't know why is it a bad behavior. For me, it's very true. This child is having snort all the time. I don't want to play. That's my reality. It's if I say to this child, no, you should not, I'm stopping the communication. This child is communicating a fact, a truth. But of course it feels bad. On the other side, the idea is to teach this child, you're stating a fact, true, you're absolutely true, but try to come here and see how it feels for the other person. I have a real life example of this communication. I had a child who comes from a Muslim background. 3-year-old child cannot come with any information on its own. Gets the information, processes it in its own individual way. Comes on a particular day, has another child in the assembly says, oh, I'm going to Lalandia, you know. I says, that's a very bad place to go. Why? People are naked there. And this child like, that's not true. My mommy says that it's not true. No, I know. My daddy says. Now, it's not necessary his daddy has said. Because this is what a child will always say, mom and dad. Wherever they have heard, unfortunately, it's us the moms and dads who get all the blame. My daddy has said, they all go naked there. And this discussion went on. And at some point in time, of course, I handled it. At some point in time, it actually escalated one day to the fact at a lunch table, we have very open discussions. Goes on to say that another heard thing, Allah is the only God. Interesting. Another child says, but what is that? It is not, and this child can't explain. What is that? I as an adult can say, hey, don't say that. That's not true. Or I say, how interesting. Tell a little bit more about this. We would like to know. And this child says, and then another child, of course, no. My mom says Jesus is the God. So I just take the ball, as we say in pedagogy, bacha de fang the ball or spill the ud or see what's scared. There was beautiful discussion amongst the children. They can figure it out themselves. And there was one girl, I still remember, who said, I know who God is. I said, yeah, who? It's a super one, super girl. I said, yes, of course, why not? Again, truth is one, but expressions are different from each child. How do I get that child to respond back? And then in my world, this is a challenge. I said, do I have challenges? Yes, of course. This is a challenge. I need to help this little child who, if not helped, could continue to have, and there would be others who say, oh, that's also true because that boy is a Muslim boy, you know. It's stigmatization. It's very natural to happen. With all the statistic, that's what happens. So what is my responsibility as an adult in this case? So we did a project for a whole month or month and a half on culture. Children were asked to bring their food from home, which was very unique to their culture. Then we found, my pedagogues went and found all kinds of dance and music, which we played and we performed, and we cut these dolls with costumes and all kinds of things, everything we could with all over the world, And then we practiced the theater. We invited all the parents, and these children performed a whole theater performance for half an hour, where each child came from his own culture. Pakistani had this dress and bhangra and this Bollywood song and another Japanese ninja, and everybody was represented. And you need to believe me because I'm telling you this is my experience. I never had a problem of cultural issues again. I never had this child ever saying anything of that kind and getting a negative response again. It just stopped, and they were friends again. There was no such thing as, I don't want to play with him or with her and those kinds. So it's possible in that age, every age it's possible if they want to learn, but children are easier to teach than adults. So what do I do? First tool I use, be and do what you want others to be and do. It's very simple. It's very Christian, it's very Muslim, all the religions say the same thing. I just say it in a little different way. I say, be and do what you want others to be and do. My actions, my solutions and challenges and my way of working is based on I do. For example, I don't like avocado. I was for my cook. She presented avocado without knowing I like it or not. I ate it. And then she asked me, did you like it? I said, no, but I eat because I tell my children, taste your food. You cannot choose. I better start here. It's an attitude change. I start doing that. It starts happening. My staff will start doing it. It becomes unknowingly, it's a culture that spreads. And that's what culture is. Culture is what you do again and again. It spreads. I try to be conscious. The second thing, I try to be conscious about every movement around the child. And I teach my staff to be conscious. If you look and see a person, you can learn a lot. I don't look at identities, because what am I? Am I a mother, wife, pedagogue, entrepreneur, dancer, dark brown immigrant? I'm everything. I'm everything. I'm not just one, so I have no identity in that way. How do I see beyond the identities? I had a small child who has had a long period of crying, and we didn't understand. It's the baby crying all the time. What's wrong? So there are these people, they are qualified, and they come and tell me, but you know, this child perhaps needs to go into a Daupla, because you know, this is a big institution, you have 70 kids, and it could be this and that. Yeah, you have lots of experience, yeah, but we should perhaps do this. I said, so it comes a lot of filters. What I'm trying to say is, it's a lot of filters. Oh, that's also another says, oh yeah, but we also see that the parents are also very, they don't speak, they don't communicate. So you put another filter, because the mother is like this, so therefore, they also come from another culture. So there's third filter, fourth filter. Luckily, I have a staff who came and said, I want to take up this challenge. I said, yes, please. You just do one thing. Promise me you will not look at this child through any of these filters. From today, you look at this child and say, I want to help. Yes, and believe me, 2 weeks. This child has been smiling, child which did not want to walk, refused to walk, cried every single time the child stood up, has started to walk, holding hands, of course. This is just 2 weeks. It's about intention to do something for someone, communicating, and that's why I'm coming to the third most important tool. It's called ARC. It's an understanding, triangle of understanding, I call it. A stands for affinity. Affinity, you all know, liking each other, grades of liking, dislike, whatever. Affinity is more liking. R stands for reality, knowing that, yes, you're wearing a gray dress and a black, so you must like gray. Oh, I also like black. I'm also wearing black. So there's a reality between us already. And communication, because this can start a communication. Then I can say, hey, where did you buy that black dress? I like the black pant. I have a black dress. You know, it's ARC. It's an affinity. You can take any of those three and build the next. From not knowing a person, I don't know you at all, within 10 minutes, I can know you a lot, and I can create a relationship using this one very simple tool. Simple example, Jamila comes to me and says, we don't know each other. She comes as a mother. She says, would you like to speak at this contribute? Wow, interesting. Tell me more about. And she says, this. Oh, I have similar ideologies. We have similar ideas. Yeah, this is interesting. We communicate more. It doesn't matter how I look or she looks, where she comes from. She's a mother, my customer, and all that. It's just two human beings who can create a relation. It's possible we have a conflict one day where I think, this is not the way to do things. But I have a huge triangle. I can use this to actually communicate and understand and solve this conflict. And we use this every single day with children. When a child starts in the institution, we ask, what is your interest? Even babies have interests. Some children have only interest in food. Fantastic. Go into the canteen. Here is the food. Another child could be very, very tough. What do you like? I would like to give food to the fish. I have some animals in the kindergarten for this purpose. I would like to play with the mouse. So I just find these tricks and tips, because I know if I am in reality with this child, this child is going to be happy. It's about reality. And through that reality, affinity. This is what I do, and how do I do it in practical with parents. I had to take the initiative to talk, to communicate what you stand for, what you believe in. You will get fantastic, and irrespective of what filter there is, the filters will lift. As I say, communication is universal, dissolvent. You communicate, you get things to solve like this. And I could go on also for many, many hours, but thank you that I was allowed to speak here.